Yes.
Okay, this is our very special seminar. We have today Jeff Paniati, Executive Director and CEO of Institutes of Transportation Engineers. Before that, when I knew Jeff, we served on several committees together. He used to come with his group of people following him from Federal Highway, and uh, just wonderful. And he was the highest ranking Federal Highways career official. Official. He was the executive director of Federal Highway. But more importantly, we have some common friend. Jeff and I, uh, both of us are uh, University of Connecticut graduates. Well, difference of 20 years or maybe 30, I don't know.
No, not that long, I don't think.
But we have a common friend, Hal Ridgway, who was my classmate 1960s, and he was also Jeff's instructor while he was at Connecticut. So I was very impressed with Jeff when I first saw him in some of the meetings of Strategic Highway Research Program or the Federal Highway Research Advisory. A very impressive person. And we are glad that after retiring from Federal Highway, he has joined or taken the helm of Institute of Transportation Engineers. So he's, I wish he could come physically. I know he came here some years ago. Maybe he will come back again so that we can show him some of the recent hotspots of West Lafayette. Well, with that, I will let Abdullah make more formal presentation or introduction. Abdullah?
Thank you, Professor Sinha. So today I am pleased to introduce to you Jeff Paniati. Mr. Paniati spent more than 32 years with the Federal Highway Administration, during which time he served in several responsible roles, including leading the Safety Traffic Operations Research programs at the Turner Fairbank Highway Research Center, the Director of the Intelligent Transportation Systems ITS Joint Program Office, the Associate Administrator of the FHWA Office of Operations, and in 2008, Jeff served as the FHWA Executive Director, the highest career position within FHWA. Eventually, in 2015, Jeff became the Institute of Transportation Engineers Executive Director and CEO. Again, we are pleased to have you with us today, Jeff, and with that, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Abdullah, and thank you, Kamaris. It is great to reconnected with you again. I've always enjoyed our opportunities to cross paths, and I guess that's one thing for our students to understand is, the transportation community seems like a big community, but in reality, it isn't so big, and you connect with people or you have common connections, as Kamaris indicated, our common background at University of Connecticut, and you come into one another, and then you go away on your career, and then you cross paths again and come back and again. And I can think of so many people that I've done that with, and it's been great. And you mentioned Hal Ridgway, and I just want to take a minute. I wouldn't have gone to Federal Highway had it not been for Hal. He not only was a professor at UConn, but he was also a former employee with FHWA, and he's the one that pushed me a little bit and opened some doors for me in the direction of Federal Highway, and that led to the 32-year career there. So I owe a lot to Hal and to roots in Connecticut, and it's nice to have that connection with you as well, Kamaris.
Oh, good.
And Abdullah, thank you for that kind introduction. Let me see if I can bring up my screen here, and the presentation. There we go. Oops. See if I can get all my content. Well, trying to get something enabled here. Let me just see.
Sure.
I'm going to have to escape out of this a second. Okay. Let's see. And see, are you still able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, good. Okay. There we go. It doesn't want to stay. All right, I'm going to work it from there.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to do today is spend a little time up front telling you about ITE 2020. So what does the organization look like today? And then dive into a little bit of what does it offer to you as students and what will it offer to you as you move from student to young professional. So I'll walk through a few slides here on that. So to start with, ITE is an international community of transportation professionals. And I think when people come in contact with IT that don't know ITE so much, they focus a lot on that E. And they think it is only a community of engineers or civil engineers or transportation engineers. And really, it's a much broader community than that. It certainly includes a strong core of transportation engineering and transportation engineers, but we have many transportation planners and technologists and policymakers and, you know, a wide variety of participants in that community. And it's an international community. It's a community of 16,000 professionals. Most are based in North America, but we have members in 78 countries, strong contingent in Australia and New Zealand, lots of individuals who were educated in the United States and went back to their home countries and have maintained membership with ITE. We also collaborate quite extensively with other internationally based organizations. And kind of the two things that we try to bring to our members, or we talk about with our members, is first, providing value at multiple levels. So at the international level, at the district level, at the section and chapter level. So there's lots of ways to engage with ITE, and I'll talk more about those as I go through the presentation. And what we also try to do is connect our members to a world of ideas, people, and resources. So we're trying to help you see where the practice of transportation is today and where it's heading. We're trying to connect you to the people that are, you know, in that network that I talked about earlier that you want to know locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. And we're trying to give you the resources that you need to practice as a professional effectively. And again, in my presentation, I'll talk about some of those elements. So ITE membership, as I said, 16,000 members in 78 countries. You can see our growth in membership. We have grown about 2,000 members over the last 5 years as we've, you know, expanded our reach and engaged more extensively. When we look at sort of who we are and who we want to be and where we're heading, a great document that is just finished is just in the latest issue of IT Journal that came out this month. We have an article about the new ITE strategic plan for 2021 to 2023. And I would encourage you to take a minute and read it. You can also find it on our website. I've pulled a little bit from that plan, you know, our vision statement, which is pretty simple, to be the transportation organization of choice. So
Jeff,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt here, but I think the slides are not flipping through. So
Yeah.
we're still on the first slide for us.
Oh, really? Okay, let me see if I can go back and figure that out. Okay, now now they move?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that was my second slide. This is where I was talking about sort of the membership growth you can see here.
Wow.
About 2,000 members. Let's see if I can get this one to go forward here. There we go. Okay, now you see the strategic plan?
Yep.
Okay, so As I was saying, the board of directors spent the last year, working together and establishing a new strategic plan, which sets out the direction for the next 3 years. And in that plan, it talks about our vision statement to be the transportation organization of choice. And that's recognizing that transportation professionals, when they choose to be involved with volunteer organizations, they have to make a decision as to the value that organization provides to them and whether it's worth their money and their time to be invested in it. And so we want to make sure that it's worth it for our members and an ever increasing, expanding group of members. And our board, spent some time defining the values of the organization, because it's important, this is the culture of the organization we have and that we, aspire to. And it's around these 4 values: technical excellence. So I think IT has always prided itself as a place for technical leadership in our profession and bringing innovation forward. Being a community, that collaboration, that networking I talked about earlier, both within our professional community, local community. So community really has 2 connotations here. It's a community of practicing professionals. It's also the role we play within our local communities and that transportation plays in citizens' lives. We want to make a difference, right? I think as professionals who aspire to bring value to the people we work for, we want to create positive outcomes in our society and in our world. And we embrace diversity and inclusion. We want a diverse membership. We want it to reflect the broad demographics of the cultures, the skills, the disciplines, and the experiences of that global community we serve. So those are the values that really underpin ITE and what we're about, and where we want to go. There's a lot more detail in that strategic plan that I'm not going to go into in terms of specific actions and activities. I think you can take a look at that for yourself, but I thought it was important to talk about those values and that vision statement. Now, one of the things that we want to do is to bring new ideas forward. And the way we've been doing that is through what we call our Institute initiatives. So there are 5 existing Institute initiatives: Vision Zero, Transportation and Health, Connected and Automated Vehicles, Mobility as a Service and Mobility on Demand, and Smart Communities. And those 5 initiatives all have cross-cutting working groups and action plans and activities, and they're producing technical content and knowledge for our members. They've also connected us outside of ITE. So in each of those Institute initiatives, the steering committee or the folks involved are not just ITE members, but they're leaders from outside of IT as well. So it's given us strong connections, for example, into the public health community, an area that we hadn't collaborated with a lot before. We're connected with a lot of people on the technology side and in the automotive industry and in the tech industry through connected and automated vehicles and mobility as a service. We're helping to lead some activities with the Road to Zero Coalition based on our work in Vision Zero. So these help us put ITE in a leadership role within the transportation community. And you see a couple of emerging issues that we're working on right now. A lot of interest in big data and data analytics. And we did some listening sessions with our members last year to identify the kinds of things that ITE could help in allowing our members to take advantage of and better harness the volumes of data that are now available to us. And diversity, inclusion, and equity. As I'm sure you're all aware, we have lots of challenges, I think, in our country and in our world today in those areas, and ITE has been leading a number of conversations with regard to transportation equity and what that means and what it should mean to us as professionals as we help officials make decisions about transportation investments and the kinds of services that are available in the public. So these are some of the areas, and that's certainly not all, but some of the leading edge areas that we're exploring. We are also providing technical leadership and resources. And so here's just a list of some of, certainly not all, but some of the kinds of products that IT provides. The thing we're probably best known for is our trip generation work, our trip generation manual and our parking generation manual that are widely used. We just put out recently a traffic signal change and clearance interval recommended practice. That's a bit controversial, but it was something that had languished for a while, and we felt like it was important to kind of put a bit of a stake in the ground about what practice should look like in that area. And it's really helped the industry coalesce on around some needed research and fund some additional research in that area, which has been great. I have one in bold there that was a very quick project that was led by our international president, Randy McCourt, on trying to help our members understand how to conduct counts and studies and deal with those issues during a pandemic. So this was a project that from concept to delivery was done in about 3 months as we pulled together a group of leaders from across the industry and helped pull together some of the best knowledge on that subject. And you can go down the list and you see the range of things we're involved in, from managing the curbside to educating on ITS to railroad grade crossings. So it's a wide range of activities that we provide technical leadership and resources. And again, this is just a sampling of the kinds of things that are available. We think it's important to keep our members connected, and that means connected to what's happening in the industry, connected to each other, connected to leaders, and these are just some of the different products and services that we provide. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of those, but it ranged from podcasts to our journal, to an e-community that in real time connects members together, to our biweekly spotlight, to our legacy program, which is focused on the next generation of students and leaders, to our professional development in the Learning Hub, to the Transportation Professional Certification Board, which provides certifications in operations, planning, and safety, to our leadership development program called Leadership ITE. So lots of different ways to gather information and to be connected with the transportation community and with ITE members. Now, an important element for us are our students. And this is one of the things that's relatively unique about ITE. Certainly there's ASCE and there are student chapters, but there's relatively few associations like ours that have the kind of student involvement that we have. 150 student chapters representing about 2,000 members of ITE. And we're so proud of our students and proud of our student chapters. And I think our members really enjoy the energy and the enthusiasm that come from our students. And you see we're continuing to grow. I showed the growth in members, but we're also growing in student chapters. Over the last couple of years, here's some of the new student chapters we've added. And I think what's important is the range of these student chapters, from historically Black college and university here in the Washington, D.C. area, to international chapters in India and Pakistan and New Zealand, to a chapter at the University of North Carolina that has no engineering school. So I mentioned how we're broader than engineering. This is in the School of Urban Planning, and Canadian, and a wide range. So it's great to see our footprint continue to expand in the student chapter area. Now, when we think about the student experience, here are some of the things that we think we have to offer our students beyond your involvement in your student chapter. So we certainly think that's a great experience. It's an opportunity for you to begin to build those networks, and that I mentioned that you'll have connections with the folks that you're in school with probably throughout your career, and that's a great benefit, and the things that you do together there. But we also have some other things that we think we can provide. The opportunity to engage in meetings and events across our district sections and chapters. And particularly now, as we're in this remote and virtual world, there's lots of virtual activities going on, and you're welcome to participate in any of them. And so if you check out the calendar at it.org, it's a unified calendar that will show you all of the activities going on. And if you see a chapter or a section having a meeting on a topic you're interested in, don't be afraid to join in and gain some knowledge from that. We have lots of professional development opportunities. This year alone, we'll have put on 75 webinars. All of our professional development opportunities are free for students. So if you go to our Learning Hub, you can check out what's there and take advantage of of those professional development opportunities. We have a career center, and that provides access to job opportunities, internships. We do usually once or twice a year, we do a career fair, which is a great way to connect students with employers. We have one of our staff that we hired through a career fair. She was a student at Iowa State, and we met her through our own career fair and ended up hiring her onto IT staff. We certainly are providing information on emerging trends and technologies in the industry. I talked about that a little bit earlier. And then we have a series of technical and employer councils, and this is where our members collaborate much in a similar way that you have TRB committees, we have technical and employer councils, and some committees under those. And that's where a lot of our products and resources and networking take place. And you're certainly welcome to drop in on those sessions and participate in the activities. Again, one of the benefits of COVID is that both at our recent annual meeting and upcoming in January, we've held these council and committee meetings online. And so you'll see an announcement coming up for the next round of meetings that will take place in the early part of January. And if there's an area that you have an interest in, feel free to join in and be part of one of those meetings. The sections also provide important connection for the students, and hopefully you've been connected with our Indiana section. That section provides liaisons. Our local sections provide liaisons to the student chapters. They host local meetings, which are great ways to begin to do that networking, and hopefully, before too long, we'll be able to get back to doing some of those face-to-face meetings. Kamaris and I were talking a little bit before we started, and there's a lot of good things to this virtual environment we're in, but there's some really difficult drawbacks, and one of those is it's really hard to do the kind of networking and make the personal connections that IT is known for virtually. And so when we get back to those face-to-face meetings, I encourage you to take advantage of the opportunities there in Indiana to get to know some of the local professionals. And then we sponsor a series of section level awards. And for example, here's an example of the Indiana section's Edward J. Cox Memorial Scholarship. So there's opportunity for activities like that as well. When we go to the district level, you're part of the Great Lakes District, and the districts play a key role as well. They charter the student chapters, so they're responsible for issuing the charters. They host an annual district meeting, and that meeting provides a great opportunity for student engagement. They sponsor a series of district level awards and scholarships, and of course the Traffic Bowl competition, which I'll talk more about in a minute. They are the sponsor and organizer of that as well. And then of course IT has a range of student competitions, awards, and recognition, and I certainly would be remiss if I didn't congratulate Purdue on winning the 2020 Collegiate Traffic Bowl. I'm sorry we don't have the picture of the actual, this is one of your predecessor winners and a long legacy there. I'm sorry we don't have a picture of this year's winning team, but certainly recognize the legacy that you've created in the Traffic Bowl. In addition to the Traffic Bowl, though, we provide other opportunities for students to be engaged. We have, for the first time in 2020, we did what we call the ITE Sandbox competition. It was on micromobility, and we challenged both professional teams and student teams to come up with designs that addressed a corridor in Las Vegas and another corridor of their choosing. It was a great competition. We had about 10 teams in both categories, student and professional. We got some great ideas and designs. We featured the winners and some of the honorable mentions in the IT Journal this summer. And we're planning on another competition in association with the 2020 annual meeting, or 2021, sorry about my dog, 2021 annual meeting coming up. We also are the place where the finals of the National Operations Center of Excellence technology competition takes place. So we would encourage you to check that out. That is always held as part of our annual meeting. So there's ways to engage as a student in a variety of competitions. There's also a number of awards. We have 2 different student chapter awards, kind of the best student chapter as well as the up and coming student chapter, the Momentum Award. And then we have a number of student paper and other types of competitions as well. We recently created what we call the Diversity Scholars Program. So this is part of our diversity and inclusion initiative, and really wanting to help bring more students from underrepresented areas into the profession and into ITE. So we have 2 current students, diversity scholars, that are in school and being supported by ITE. And the support is financial support of $4,000 annually for up to 5 years. But it also includes engagement with the student chapter. They have to go to a school to be eligible. You have to go to a school with an IT student chapter. We have a mentor that works with them and helps them as they move through their undergraduate education. We commit to helping them get an internship as they go into their junior year so they get some job experience. And we are looking to add additional students into this program in 2021. So I would encourage those of you that might know students that are at the high school level now and beginning to think about perhaps coming into a university setting in transportation to check out this program, and we welcome their applications. You can find more information on our website, and the applications are due in March. We also have a mentoring program, and this mentoring program is open to any ITE member, including students. And the idea is to match, and we use a online matching program, so you can connect with someone across the country or across the world. But the idea is to match someone that is looking for a mentor with a mentor that sort of meets their needs and at that point in time. And it can be a one-time conversation, or it can be an ongoing mentorship. So again, I would encourage you to check that out as another resource. Student Leadership Summit. I know that one was held at Purdue a number of years ago. These have become very popular. First one was held out in California, and we've had probably a dozen of them around the country over the last 5 years. We had a couple early this year before COVID hit, and a number of others that had to be postponed. But what we've got planned for 2021 is our first ever virtual International Student Summit. So we have schools from all of our districts that are working together with ITE to organize and deliver this virtual Student Leadership Summit in February 19th through 20th of 2021. Michigan State, I believe, is the school that is leading for your district. And key for this, for us, is that this is an activity that's planned by students for students. So we help with some of the logistics, and professional members generally help with some input. But really the agenda, the activities, the delivery, this is planned by students for students. And so it's a great learning experience. And it's also a great opportunity to, again, network and get beyond kind of the folks within your own student chapter. So I would encourage you to participate when registration opens for this, which should be pretty soon. And then finally, as you think about going from student to young professional, so there's a few things that I would want you to be aware of. Number one, we provide a very low-cost way to enter the professional ranks. So as long as you're under the age of 30, you start off at $30 the first year, and your membership is $60 the second year and $90 the third. So it progresses gradually up to a full membership cost to allow our students to come into professional and immediately be members at a relatively low cost. Certainly many employers, both on the public and private sector side, support IT membership dues and professional development. This is a great way, to be connected to networks within ITE and to leverage your connections. As a young professional, one of the things I would encourage you to do is to volunteer in your section, wherever you end up as a professional. Volunteer and get involved and take on, just a small task. It's a great way to meet people and to become connected. That's what I did early in my career. I volunteered with the Washington, D.C. section of ITE, and that's really what drew me into ITE. Ultimately, I ran and held all of the officer positions at the local section. From there, I got involved with the Traffic Engineering Council at the international level, and that kind of pulled me in to ITE at the international level. So there's always plenty of opportunities to participate, whether it be Like I said, locally, it could be on a technical project, could be in a social event. There's lots of opportunities, and you will benefit from that experience throughout your career. And then we have a IT Young Member Committee. I would encourage you to participate and follow along in some of the things that they're doing. We have our Leadership IT program as you get into your career a little bit. It's a great leadership development program. And we're going to debut in 2021 a new designation, ITE Young Leaders to Follow. And this is going to be a set of 20 young leaders that we're annually going to announce that to us are leading our institute and leading in our profession. And we want to put a spotlight on them, on people that are under the age of 35, relatively early in their careers, and that are up and coming in our institute and in our profession. So that will be something new we'll be debuting in 2021. Last slide is just to say this is where you can find information on pretty much everything I talked about on our website at ite.org. And to be connected, even as you're at home right now and kind of distance, if you aren't on and aren't involved with ITE community, I would encourage you to check it out. You get a daily digest that on any given day probably has about a dozen posts and anywhere from 15 to 25 responses, and you can kind of follow the issues that are going on in our world. And sometimes they're technical issues, kind of down in the weeds a little bit. Sometimes they're policy issues or activities. It gives you a broad perspective on the profession and a way to ask questions if you want and get answers from around the country or around the world. And then something new we've developed under COVID are what we call virtual drop-in sessions. So these happen generally twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 o'clock. They're very unstructured. So it's 30 minutes. An IT member convenes the discussion. They throw an idea out there or some questions for 5 or 7 minutes. And then they have a group discussion with whoever's dropped in, usually 20, 25 people. We try to keep them relatively small. And it's a great way to just get a little information, ask a question, connect on a topic. So I would encourage you to keep an eye out for the upcoming topics and maybe think about participating in one of those as well. Here's where you can find us. Colleen Agan is our membership director and key contact for students and member, or Eunice Thoya also. There are two folks that if you have any questions about any of the student activities or how to get involved in any of that, don't hesitate to reach out to any of those. So that concludes the presentation, and let me just stop there, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Jeff. We're going to follow the same way. You'd raise your hand using the Teams raised hand feature to ask your question, and we can go ahead with Professor Ukasuri.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Happy to be with you. Good to hear you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been involved with IT for many years, almost 20 years now. And so I just wanted to find out, most of our students, once they graduate with masters, they go into industry and become professionals in the transportation industry. So I was wondering if IT facilitates any kind of internship opportunities with industry engagement that they have. Are there any opportunities to engage with industry partners that you can connect with for the graduate students?
Yes, so that career center that I mentioned, we get internship opportunities that we regularly post in there and help to make connections between not only students, but also between professionals and employers and activities. So that there are a number of ways through that avenue to make connections. The other thing I would suggest is that, by getting involved either in the local section activities or getting involved in a technical council or committee is a great way to be connected with our members in both the public and private sector. One of the things I didn't mention in my remarks is that one of the great things about ITE is that if you look at our membership, we're about equally balanced between the public and private sector. 45% of our members are in the public sector, 45% are in the private sector, and about 10% are students or in the academic world. So that's one of the great things about connecting in either locally or at the international level is you can find relationships in either the public or private sector through those avenues.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I have a question. I don't know how to use my hand raising.
I can see it. It's up.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. I mastered.
You are. You must be a doctor.
I have some quick question. I'm curious, what percentage of student members become regular members in IT?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that I know the exact percentage. What we end up seeing is that we have a lot of students. To some extent, it depends on the composition of the student chapter, which depends on the program at the university. So if the student makeup is primarily in graduate programs, then a very high percentage leave those graduate programs with degrees in transportation and they become IT members. If the student membership is more predominantly undergraduate, then what we end up seeing is we bring in a big pool and we expose them to transportation, but many of them might not be necessarily had that much exposure to transportation or end up spending their careers in the transportation area. And so the percentage is smaller for undergraduate programs. But actually, it's something that our board is very focused on right now and we'll be doing some work on in 2021 is how do we create a better transition for students from student to professional and make that pathway easier to go as you leave university and go into your first professional job to make ITE part of that. So that is something we're going to spend a little bit more time on this coming year.
I have another quick question, Abdullah, if there is time. Quick.
Of course, please go ahead.
Yeah. Do you have any kind of mechanism to coordinate with TRP or ASC's Transportation Development Institute? I know IT is it has a very focused activity and it does, it came from ITE, which is to be traffic. So it still has maintained very well that hard means operational part of transportation and identity. That's good,
Right.
the practice part. But I'm wondering, I know TRB is like a big umbrella, and whether you feel the competition or whatever in that context, how do you coordinate?
Yeah, we have a lot of connections with TRB committees in particular because so many of our members are involved with both TRB and ITE. So it's not every TRB committee, obviously, but the ones that line up with us in kind of the transportation system management operations, traffic engineering, transportation planning, safety, we have quite a bit of connection with those organizations, both formally and informally. So sometimes we might host a TRB committee meeting as part of our annual meeting, or we might have some joint collaboration going on through one of our councils, or sometimes it's less formal where it's just the members themselves, well, I'm involved with this TRB related effort. Oh, okay, well, IT is doing this. Well, let me tell you about what we're doing. How does that inform, so there's a lot of that that goes on with TRB. I certainly collaborate a lot with Neil Peterson, who's my counterpart with TRB, and a number of the TRB staff we work with closely. We're involved in NCHRP projects. Our staff and our members sit on those. So there's a lot of connections with TRB. I would say a little less so with ASCE. I did participate in their annual meeting, the Transportation Development annual meeting last year. Spoke at their conference and we've had some connections there, and we have a number of our members that are pretty actively involved. Marcia Anderson, for example, has been very actively involved with that ASCE organization. So we have some collaboration there, but I would say it's not nearly at the same level as we do with TRB and the TRB committees.
Thanks.
Sure.
Great. With that, I do not see any more raised hands. So I'm going to take the chance, or actually, I do have one from Jenny. Jenny, you can go ahead.
Hey, I need to unmute myself.
Hey, Jenny.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
So last night I put a little note in the chat box there that I was asked by the San Francisco chapter of the Landscape Architecture Organization. The president just happens to be my daughter. Yay! So next generation, but not on the engineering side. But I really felt like there's an overlap now of landscape architects and what some of the transportation planners are doing in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I had Kimberly Leung, who's also chairs the student initiatives program for the Western District. She and I made a presentation on what each of our districts do between the Mountain District and the Western District for students and young professionals. And they have so many really motivated volunteers, and they're just looking for direction. So tried to share with them what we do at the district level, international level, and how there's resources out there, not to feel like you've got to do all this by yourself on your own, or partner with another organization. Like, you know, ITE would be more than happy to collaborate with them. But they, you know, they want to do a mentor program. They want to do lots of leadership programs. So I feel like it's a good opportunity to share what ITE does and now see the overlap again between what transportation planners do with landscape architects. And I think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's great that you were able to do that. I think when you look at, you know, kind of the complete streets area, some of the work that's being done in Vision Zero and those activities in speed management and, you know, and really thinking through kind of some of our downtown urban spaces, it really is a collaborative between planners, engineers, architects, technologists to some degree as we get into finding space for connected and automated vehicles and where are they going to pick up and drop off and how do they do that safely, and business as we think about, you know, the Uber and Lyft business model and how they operate in that environment. So it's a really good example of that community of transportation professionals that is really needed, I think, to solve the problems that we have today and where we're headed tomorrow. It's not just going to be the planner or the engineer or the architect by themselves that's going to solve that problem. It's really going to come from a multidisciplinary and collaborative environment.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all you do.
Sure. Great to see you.
You too.
Thank you. Also, with that, I'm going to go ahead and take the chance and tell you that we are really appreciative of the chance. Our Purdue ITE student chapter is really thankful for the chance you gave us today by visiting us. And we do have our hopes that things will get normal, back to normal, I should say, very soon, and we'll be able to host you in person here, Jeff.
Well, thank you. You know, you guys are a shining star for us. You know, we have 150 student chapters or more, but there's a set of them that really, I think, rise above in terms of the consistency of activity and engagement and the quality, frankly, of students that come out of those programs and go on to do great things in our profession. And so I certainly, when I make that list of universities and student chapters, Purdue is always high on that list. And I think, you know, it's from the quality of the program, but it's also from folks like Kamaris and Darcy and your other professors there who have been willing to put the time and energy into supporting you, you know, in your academic studies, but also in developing you as, you know, well-rounded professionals. And I hope ITE, you know, contributes to that. So congratulations on all the great things that you guys are doing at Purdue. We certainly see them, and we're proud to have you be one of our leading IT student chapters.
Well, thanks for taking time, Jeff, coming, and it was a wonderful presentation. You do very well, by the way.
That's good, Kamaris.
Very well.
So this is Darcy. I want to make one last comment. The challenge to Abdullah, I put in the chat a picture of Jenny Grote with the ITE officers in 2002 with a Purdue tattoo on her wrist. So the challenge to you, Abdullah, and the officers are to win the next award, and with Jeff Paniati to have a Purdue P tattoo on in 2021. Jenny, how do you think about that for a challenge?
For a moment, I thought that she got permanently tattooed, and I was like, "Where is it, Jenny? I didn't see that there." But you know, Darcy, good to hear from you, and hope you're doing well.
It's always good to have a little levity in these talks.
It is, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
So, Abdullah, we're going to do a quick meeting with the students now.
Yes, so a kind
All right.
reminder for all registered students to stay in line. And again, thank you, Jeff.
Yep.